Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Um, we have seasoned speakers joining us from various areas in the industry. Our speakers are going to bring valuable experiences and knowledge and unique perspectives as well, and we are grateful to have them all here. So let's give about 5 minutes so others can join us and then we proceed. Thank you. Okay, thank you all for being here today. My name is Ernestina Teria, and I'll be your moderator for this webinar. So today's topic is securing Ghana's digital services with local infrastructure. And someone may ask, what is this about? So when we say securing Ghana's digital services with local infrastructure, we mean keeping Ghana's important digital systems safe within the country. So we do not need to hand it over to people from outside our country to handle or manage it for us, but then doing everything internally so that our systems are safer, better controlled, and less dependent on these foreign entities. Now, by doing this, we tend to protect our services like the banking sector, healthcare, education, and government operations for cyber threats and disruptions. So today's session is going to be very insightful and more of a discussion. We already have lots of people asking questions, our audience is asking questions. So we'll dive into that session as well after our speakers have delivered their opinions and perspectives on what it means to secure Ghana's digital services with our local infrastructure. Now, joining me for today's discussion are key stakeholders from government, enterprise, and technology sectors as well. We are going to explore the topic further on how to safeguard our digital services and then enable scalable growth. So join me without further much ado to introduce our speakers. Now, our first speaker, he's the head of enterprise architecture at NITA, and he's in the person of Mr. Emmanuel Aferi Ampofo. You're welcome, Mr. Ampofo.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here too.
Okay. Our second speaker is a senior cloud and systems engineer at Smart Infraco, and he's in the person of Mr. Kelvin Yamiche Asford. You're welcome, Mr. Asford.
Thank you very much, Tina. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you. So we move on to our next speaker, the third speaker. He's a co-founder of Hadley Technologies Limited, and he's in the person of Mr. Isaac Denchi Cranting. You're welcome, Mr. Cranting. I think Mr. Cranton's audio is not functioning properly. Okay, so Mr. Cranton's audio is not really working. We would get back to Mr. Cranton. The final speaker, our fourth speaker, he is a fraud and cyber risk management expert, and he's in the person of Mr. Nana Ado Ampemdako. You're welcome to today's session, Mr. Ampemdako.
Thank you for having me, Ernestina. I'm glad to be here. And Mr. M Nana, let's do the Nana. It's fine. Thank you.
All right, that's fine. So let's begin today's session. Okay. So we would want to look at some risks that are facing our organizations in the country. So with having a cyber risk and fraud expert, Mr. Ampemdako, I think you would be able to help us in answering this question. Like, what are some of the biggest infrastructure risk facing our organizations today?
Right. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and it's great to be here. Look, so I would say that we are in a middle ground in the sense that whilst we are dealing with um, trends. And so you would want to say that if you want to look at the risks that we currently face as a people, you want to look at on a smaller scale, some targeted ransomware attacks against some financial institutions and some critical infrastructures that we have seen over the last couple of years. I, I think I wouldn't want to bore you, but some time back, we all saw what happened where one of the critical infrastructures in this country were not able to provide services to its customers. And we had an inclination that it may have been some targeted form of ransomware attack that led to that. I mean, the general space of things, you could look at the major challenges we have as a country today, looking at social engineering, and itself. And social engineering, it encompasses everything. When I talk about social engineering, it leads to all kinds of things, and it's one of the major issues we are dealing with. You have seen a lot of those so-called WhatsApp, hacking and all of that. That leads to a number of things and all of that. And then, critically, as we see today, is the mobile money fraud that everybody talks about. We have recently also experienced business email compromise and all of that, where and it's not for any reason. The fact that we are moving digitally means that these are some of the challenges that we are facing. So, from 2 points of view, where organizations are being attacked at a larger scale level, and then on a personal level, as individuals, they are also having to deal with this same brand. Recent cyber criminals are more or less like they are facultative, and so they look at where there's an opportunity and then they want to explore. They realize that people like you and I are making it difficult for them to attack the big organizations. And so what they are doing is looking at the what we call the vulnerable within the chain, and that is the customer, the individual. That is why they tend to attack individuals more through social engineering scams and all of that. And so, yes, if you ask me, these are some of the things that we're facing as a country today, where there's been a lot of attacks. Especially you look at AI-powered attacks and then identity theft, where cyber criminals are now using AIs to attack individuals and companies using brute force, and then creating localized phishing campaigns and what have you. And one of the things we see, they're deploying deep fakes for impersonation as well as fraud. And so yeah, that is just my initial comments on that. Thank you, Christina.
Okay. So, Mr. Ampofu, would you like to add anything to it? What do you think are the biggest risks we are facing in our organizations in Ghana today?
Yeah, so, like he mentioned, most of the risks that we face in our organizations, social engineering risks, and others, there are cyber attacks. Most of these cyber attacks are related to breach in system, and we identify that most of these things are from the lack of robust structures, lack of resilient systems. In that case, it makes it porous for such attacks. So we create that kind of channel for people to easily attack our systems. So I'm talking with regard to more of the government systems that we have. So we realize that most of the attacks that we record are due to just mere disregard for certain key or minor things in the system's architecture, and that's what leads to these kind of attacks. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so still with you, Mr. Ampofu, how does data localization improve security and operational control?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, so for data localization, it has been one of the things we've realized for government that is key for improving security. Because if you look at the system where a lot of data, and you look at critical kind of data, so you look at agencies that are having huge registries where they have very sensitive data, personal data, and all kinds of other government data, and even data of citizens in the country. You realize that because of the kind of infrastructure that they feel they want to adopt, they tend to put such data out there somewhere where we are not even aware of, or where we don't even have information on. So you realize that such locations pose a lot of risk to government in terms of the fact that we do not have operational control, even over such data. So at the end of the day, if there is any issue that arises as a result of cyber attack or loss of data inaccessibility, you realize that we are found wanting. Recently, there was an issue in Nigeria where they realized that about 80 million personal data is on the dark web. And this is a huge risk for the country. So it's all as a result of you not having your data local. So when you have your data local, you realize that it's within your reach. So you can have adequate control over such data. You can put certain measures, and NITA's role as well. It makes provision for NITA's role to provide such governance infrastructure or such governance systems around such data. It makes it easy for us. So that's the more reason we advocate that data is local and kept within the country or within infrastructure that the country can have adequate control over.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Cranton, do you have anything to add to this? How does data localization improve security and operational control?
Well, I mean, I think my other colleagues have spoken extensively. We all looking at, we need to localize more of our data infrastructure than to rely so much on cloud services and stuff like that, which sometimes there are major breaches, and sometimes even tracking exactly where the breaches are coming from becomes difficult. Um, I believe over the past few years we have enacted laws that protect data and data users, and I think corporate Ghana will have to embrace and do a lot more internally to fortify data within the organizations. One key thing is that I think most organizations do not also plan properly how to secure their database and also secure their online presence. So probably as we delve deeper into risk and other questions that may come out of this, we surely will learn a lot more. So I guess that's what I want to add to it.
Okay, so with all these means we need to have data centers. Now I know we have a couple of them in the country. Main one, MTN has theirs, and then we have Meta as well. So I'd like to ask, what should we or what should organizations prioritize when choosing a data center? And since we have someone from Meta, the head of enterprise, would you help us with that?
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much. Yes. If I got your question clear, you want to know what you are looking at public organizations, right?
Let's look at everybody since we would have government and enterprise on the call as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So the government data center, which is the national data center, it's a tier three data center, and I'm sure a lot of us are aware of that data center, and as well as other private data centers here in Ghana. Um, if I'm to ask what we should look, there are certain data center regulations that the government has put in place, NITA being the implementing arm for that, or the regulatory body in charge of that. We don't intend to be a strict kind of or focused on the regulation, but we are focused on creating enabling environment for ICT to thrive, and we are focused on our customers. I mean your customers, which is the citizens of the country, institutions in the country, enabling them to have that kind of quality data center service provision to them, that security that comes with data center operations and all such things. So we have created these regulations as a way of providing a governing framework to help institutions who run such services be able to comply by, to help ensure that customers or the citizens of the country are getting the best quality service in terms of data center services being provided. Yes, and the government data center, most people have their ulterior motives about it, but it is actually a certified data center, a certified tier 3 data center that provides the same quality as you would get out there, and even including the cloud infrastructure that has also been provisioned, the G cloud that has also been provisioned. Yeah, so we would advocate that if you are a public service or a public institution and you are providing government services digitally, and you seek to use a data center infrastructure, what we advocate is that initially it is a directive in order for us to have that kind of governing arm or operational control over the kind of data that you would be, or service that you'll be providing to end users, which is the citizens. So we direct that all such systems be placed in the government national data center, which is a data center that has been certified by Uptime and serves as a tier 3 data center, and it serves the same purpose as the kind of data centers that you get out there, talking about the Googles, the Facebook, and all those private data center providers out there. It provides similar infrastructure. We also not, however, discredit the private data centers in the country. So talking about MTN, Main One, and a whole lot of others, we also advocate that their presence in the country is equally important in terms of the fact that they ensure that we have a wider reach for accessibility, service provision. In terms of digitalization, we are looking at digitalization. And when we talk about digitalization, government's digital transformation agenda is not something that sits with only public institutions, but it has a midpoint with the private institutions as well. So we have to look all around. So such data center providers are also equally we advocate for them to thrive even in the country in terms of providing quality of service. That's how come we came up with regulations to ensure that the service they are providing is up to par with whatever is or the standard across the international standards that we have across.
Okay.
Yes, so these are some of the things that we look out for.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Asford, do you have anything to add on things we should prioritize when we are choosing a data center?
Yes. So Mr. Ampofu has really said enough. So I will just break it down with some, there's some specific simple framework that I mostly put down for organizations that are looking to, prioritize local infrastructure and local data center. And this framework that I put together, I mostly call it by the word script, which basically means, sovereignty, there's connectivity, there's resilience, there's dependency, there's power. So these basic frameworks are what organizations should look, you know, into when they are talking about data center or looking to host their infrastructure locally. So when we say the sovereignty bit of it, so from the beginning, is that data center sitting locally in the country of your jurisdiction? So since we are talking about Ghana, is the data center here in Ghana, are they following government policies, that prioritize the sovereignty of that data or that infrastructure? And are these institutions that own these data center investing critically into the infrastructure to maintain, some local security frameworks or compliance that the country has put down for these data centers? Then the second thing is the connectivity. So as an organization, you need to look at, the connectivity of that data center. Is the connectivity backbone of that data center resilient enough to handle whatever capacity or workload? Now, currently in Ghana, we have, about 6 submarine cables that are connected to the country, and these 6 submarine cables are providing connectivity to the enterprise data centers and the government data centers. And this then expands the connectivity backbone of the country. So you need to check if the connectivity of that data center is very expansive across whichever submarine cable that is sitting right at the doorstep of the country. Then the next thing you need to look at is resilience. Now, I believe a lot of people know that Ghana is the only country that has a tier 4 data center, within the West African sub-region. So that gives this country a leverage for people that are looking to host their infrastructure either in the cloud, locally at a data center, or even sending their hardware models to data center to, run their applications and software solutions. So Ghana being the only country in West Africa with that level of tier for data center services, it means we do have resilience in the country to offer data center solutions. So organizations need to look at that tier, categorization for data centers, which will then determine or advise on if they would onboard onto that local data center. Then we have independence. Now, independence here, right, that I'm talking about is in terms of connectivity. Is that data center carrier neutral, right? Doesn't mean they have every other, telecom connectivity sitting right or provider sitting right at the data center. You need to look at that. If the data center has only one connectivity of a telecom provider, then you can see that there's a problem here. So as for us smart Infraco, where we host our cloud service, we have all the connected telecom providers in the country sitting right at the data center. So you get to choose which provider that you would use, to connect to your applications or solutions. And these are very, very important, because as the market is growing, you cannot stick yourself to one connectivity provider to provide you solutions at the data center. Then the last one is power. So in terms of power, you need to check if there's unstable internet, there's unstable power outages, because these are things that would affect, the applications and the solutions you run. You need to verify if these data centers have power redundancy, they have generator backups, they do run renewable energy. These are all important things of infrastructure at the data center that organizations need to prioritize if they are looking to use a local data center. Now, one thing I would end is, looking for a local infrastructure doesn't mean it is disconnected. A lot of people do not have confidence in local infrastructure. But once you do that audit and understand that these data centers are compliant, they are controlled, and they are connected, then you should have the same level of global performance or standard that you are looking for in the country.
Okay, all right. That was very insightful, fully loaded. I believe our audience are taking notes, so maybe you could go over the abbreviation again. What did you say it was? Script, right?
Yes. So the framework that I use is script, which is sovereignty. You look
Okay,
for connectivity, then
okay.
there's resilience. Then
Resilient,
yes, then there's independence in respect to the connectivity, that they are not dedicated to only one provider. So they are
okay.
not dependent to one provider. Every telecom provider is available at that data center. Then the
Okay.
final thing is in terms of their power stability as well. So which is script.
All right. Quite interesting. So, talking about resilience, let's stay on resilience. How can businesses ensure resilience against downtime and cyber threats? Talking about cyber threats, I think we know who can help us answer this question. So, that would go to our cyber and fraud experts, Mr. Mpemdako. How can businesses ensure resilience against downtime and cyber threats?
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. I
Yes.
think it's important that we understand some of the risks that we face. I mean, to deal with cyber threats. Usually, we tend to focus on the big things, and then we tend to put our eyes off the little things that require that we pay attention to them. And so we are looking for a situation where we see that, oh, there is a total shutdown before we realize that there's a problem that needs addressing. But there are some basic little things that we can do as key warning signs that we need to look at so that we can have. So, for example, if you look at velocity spikes, those are some of the things that should tell you that there may be a problem that you need to deal with. Some red flags that you need to look at. So, a sudden, unexplained surge in, some. So, for example, you are organization and you see account creation, login attempts, and password resets that are going way up. That should tell you that there's a problem that you need to look at. Sometimes you have what we call geographic mismatch, where users log in locations that do not align with their historical data. These are some of the things that will tell you that you have a problem that you need to look at and to make sure that you are at par. So sometimes you look at bulk data exports and what have you, then you know that there is really a problem. How do you deal with it? We need to make sure that we are balancing whatever we are doing. So in terms of little things, I say this. So, for example, targeted, penetration testing from time to time to see that, you are as solid as it is. It's very important that you do that. One other thing you also want to do is to make sure that you have empowered your people to be able to understand the risk that they face. Because normally sometimes we tend to focus on the system so much, forgetting about the fact that the missing link has always been the people, being able to understand exactly what they are doing and what it is that requires them. And so these are some of the things that we need to do to ensure that we are able to, identify some of these risks and be able to, deal with it instead of focusing so much on the tools. We need to be a bit human-centric security as well, so that we can build protocols that deal with some of those issues that would come our way. Thank you.
Okay, so looking at the downtime aspect of ensuring resilience for our businesses, Namicha, can you help us with that? How can businesses ensure resilience against downtime?
Okay. So businesses ensuring resilience, right? I mean, basically, from the understanding I'm getting is when you talk about their operational resilience, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's about just being proactive. So I do understand that most institutions, when they are running their applications or they deploy their solution, they mostly design it, to stand these unexpected problems that they face day in, day out. So, I mean, for me, there's only one basic proactive scenario I give organizations. Always test your resilience. Don't just design it.
Okay.
Always, yes, do regular GR drills, do penetration testing, like the way Mr. Ankofo mentioned. Always conduct incident exercises, which are very non-negotiable. So you can test scenarios where you experience, some incidents and how quickly you can resolve from that. And that also, brings like gives you some form of confidence within your SLAs. You also need to have a GR plan, right? And
Okay.
some institutions or a lot of institutions actually implement these things. They implement backup plans, they implement disaster recovery plans, and they never test them, which is one very damning problem that a lot of institutions go. So the only solution to, ensuring that you have good operational resilience is to always test it, always run an exercise. You can fake a scenario that if your application should go down, how would you recover within this certain period? How would you be restored if, there's a breach, within your operations? So always test your resilience. That is one way to have some form of confidence in your application.
Okay. So performing targeted pen testing from time to time and then always checking or testing your resilience. Thank you so much. Mr. Quantin, is Ghana ready for
Yes.
full adoption of cloud and digital services? Do you think we are ready?
Oh yes. Ghana is very much ready, just
Okay.
like any other country. Today I always say, look, in the past, like for the past 20 years or so, most organizations focused so much on physical infrastructure. All right, so looking at cabling, structured cabling, and stuff like that. But today, the dynamics are changing so much that even most laptops do not have internet RJ45 or cable connectors directly. So what it means is that a lot technology has moved so much wireless. All right, and in Ghana in particular, because we have missed a lot of IT infrastructure in the past as a nation, all right, the demand for IT services has become so great that we have to leapfrog a lot of the existing technologies. So, for example, if you take fiber to home, it's nothing to write home about in Ghana. So demand for cloud services, of course, has really gone up. Almost every solution that businesses today provide sits somewhat on cloud because you would want consumers to easily have access to it. And as we know, mobile telephony usage in Ghana is quite high. So if really you want to tap into that, then obviously cloud will be the way to go. So yes, as a nation, we are very much prepared. For me, basically because of course we've leapfrogged a lot of the infrastructural systems that we didn't have. Now we are in a much more era where the mobile phone has become very critical, and almost everybody is on. Mobile phone penetration rate is quite high in Ghana. So as a country, yes, we are very much ready. The question is, are service providers ready? Local service providers ready to serve the Ghanaian public or the Ghanaian consumers via those channels?
Okay, so Nyamiche, what do you also think about this? Are Ghanaians ready? Is Ghana ready for large scale cloud hosting?
So I think personally for me, Ghana is more than ready than we actually realize we are. I mean,
Okay,
it might not be 100%, but I believe Ghana is ready because, I mean, if you have multiple international submarine cables
yeah,
sitting right at the doorstep of your country also being the only one having a tier 4 data center, within the West African region,
okay.
then Ghana is more than ready, to adopt local cloud infrastructure. So I don't think the question should be if Ghana is ready. I think what we should be asking is, should we move to local infrastructure? How fast can we, start moving our apps? But if you don't start, or if you don't start moving your applications to local cloud, if you don't start having jurisdiction over your local data center, then I don't think the industry is going to grow and move forward, right? So, personally, for me, Ghana is more than ready. They can offer or provide whatever local cloud infrastructure that you are looking for. What we rather need to do is to create more in that, in marketing the local cloud solution services that are being offered in the country for both government and enterprise workloads. So for me, it is one answer: Ghana is ready, and once we get people to be aware of the infrastructure that is available in the country, then people will be willing and ready to adopt cloud adoption. Now, what I believe is not ready is in terms of IT,
Option.
is in terms of IT capacity. There's a very slow adoption of training staff, that can manage these applications. So instead of we looking at the readily adoption of cloud infrastructure, how well can institutions train their staff to deploy more cloud solutions in the country and serve these solutions to enterprise customers?
Christina, I don't know if you were talking. I don't know if it's me alone. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was muted. So I'll repeat myself again. Thank you, Nyabeche, for the cloud perspective of Ghana's readiness. So I'd want to find out from Nana and Mr. Ampofu if they have anything to add to it. Do you think Ghana is ready for cloud and hosting services?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
so
believe. Okay,
sorry,
sure. You go on.
go ahead, go ahead. I'll come back later. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, I believe Ghana is very much ready for the adoption of cloud infrastructure. If you
Okay.
take, for instance, the government sector, we are looking at, as part of our digital transformation, we are looking at cloud first for every system being built. So we are looking at
Mm.
cloud adoption first. That's initially the first point of call will be to use the cloud service, to use a cloud service. And in Ghana, quite a lot of such. The only thing I might say that we need to advocate for is the presence of a lot of data centers in Ghana. When you talk about cloud, there's definitely a physical infrastructure where the cloud rides on, and that is the data centers. So we need to advocate for a lot of people to invest in building, putting up more data centers. There can't be enough data centers in Ghana to serve the purpose of cloud service provisioning. So we need to advocate for more data centers, and that's also we are looking at our local providers. So we are considering the data localization. So when we talk about data localization, our intention is for data sovereignty. And that data sovereignty doesn't mean we are trying to put up a wall around the country where people cannot have access to data who are not in Ghana, because there are definitely Ghanaians out there, institutions out there that need certain information from the country. But what we are trying to do is that we are trying to create a controlled access point. So a controlled access to data going out there so that we can be sure that there won't be the least, or you can say that there's a less likelihood of cyber attacks, there's a less likelihood of data breaches, data laws being violated. So that's the purpose of we advocating for data localization within the country. But Ghana is very much ready for cloud adoption, and we even advocate that all institutions as such should use cloud infrastructure. That is a new technology that has come, and we realize that it will get to a point when you are not even using the cloud. You'd realize that you can't have access to certain functionalities that you want. So it is very much Ghana is very much ready for adopting cloud infrastructure. Yeah.
Interesting times ahead. So before Nana comes in, Nana, before you come in, to our audience, if you have any question for our speakers, we could type them and we would help you out with that. Okay, so Nana, you can proceed.
So just under 1 minute, I just also want to retrace the point that we are more than ever ready. I mean, it has to happen. And the issue there when Yamiche talked about the IT staff not being ready, because in the past most of the IT you have in this country has been IT support, where they keep the actual work out of this country. That was the problem. But we are in a situation now where I can tell you that a lot of people are up to it, and we need to do it and develop the local capacity as well. There are individuals that are able to do this. They are more than qualified, and so for me, I think we are ready in every aspect of it. Looking at the fact that there's that concerted effort where I see a lot of private and public, collaborations and all of that, trying to strengthen our system. I believe that we are ready and that we should all embrace it. I mean, this is not rocket science anymore, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Something that are happening is something that is available, and we can just, leverage on some of the things that are already happening to develop even more. So for me, I also believe that we are more than ready. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. So we move on to our questions, and we had a few people sending questions earlier, and so to the question session, anyone who feels comfortable to handle a particular question can go on and handle that. And if our audience have any more questions to ask too, you can feel free and put them in the comment section, and then I'll read it out for our speakers to answer that as well. So to our very first question, someone wants to know what workloads should organizations consider hosting locally first? So anyone can answer this question.
Yeah, so let me take the first step, then maybe my colleagues will come in. Yeah,
Sure.
so we in government or for the national architecture, enterprise architecture that has been built for government, we have some key pillars which require that data should be localized. And if you look at the data protection laws too, first of all, if you realize that you are going to be handling data of personal information of citizens in the country, you should consider ensuring that that data should be locally stored. It should be in a local data infrastructure here in Ghana. Also, if you consider a system that will need to be interacting with other systems within the country, so you talk about interoperability among systems. And
Okay, so someone wants to find out how many data centers we have in Ghana.
okay, for the data centers in Ghana, I don't know if it's referring to the government or private. I think in general, right?
Yeah, looks like it.
Yes, in general, I can't give you the exact figure right now, but we have quite a number of them. And data centers, we have to specify, are they data centers that are commercial or data centers that are private organizations? So you take, for instance, the banks, they have data centers. Almost all banks have data centers, but they are private to their operations. The data centers are private to their operations. We also have government side that have data centers. So in government, it's just one commercial government data center, which is the national data center, but all the other data centers are private to their specific operations. But there are a lot of data centers in Ghana at the moment, but it's still not enough. We still advocate for anyone who wants to provide. We are advocating more for commercial data centers because we believe in shared infrastructure. So when the infrastructure is shared, it helps save a lot of things. I think quite recently there was a discussion with even the ECG company because data centers consume a lot of power. So if we are having every institution having that thought of building its own data center, you realize that it will be underutilized and however you need it as well. But once we have shared infrastructure, so you adopt a commercial data center which has made provision for that capacity, you realize that you have the freedom of not having to take care of the manning the data center because a lot goes into data center management.
Okay.
Yes, the staffing capacity, the cooling infrastructure, the power infrastructure, and a whole lot. So when you have shared infrastructure at most, that's the best option for data centers in the country. Looking at where the digitalization is going, we realize that everything is now going digital. And even looking at AI now coming to be a cherry on top of it, we realize that now there will be a lot of data being produced. And
Yes.
once we are advocating for data localization, then we are also encouraging a lot of data center services to be provided with.
Right. Thank you so much. So, News by Learners wants to know what the first action is after detecting suspicious activity.
Well, just to provide a bit of right. So yes, the first thing you want to do. So it depends. And here we're talking about digital infrastructure. So what you would want to do is to isolate the affected system,
Okay.
so that you would help, manage the threat that comes with it. And then from then on, you need to now perform a bit of an audit. But the first thing you want to do is to isolate it. And so if it's a network, then you need to sort of, isolate that from the other system so that you don't have cross infections and all of that. And then you can begin to look at that. But it's actually very difficult because it may depend on the kind of infrastructure you are looking at,
Oops.
and the kind of
Okay.
risk that you are also looking at, that goes. But as a general rule, even if you are not sure and you suspect that something might have gone wrong, you need to isolate, that particular problem and try to now find the real cause and then deal with it. I
Okay.
don't know if I add to it.
Yeah, that's fine. So going back to the pre-asked questions, an audience wants to know how can SMEs improve resilience without building a large internal IT department? How can SMEs improve resilience without building a large internal IT department?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to my previous response. Looking at shared infrastructure. Shared infrastructure is the best option because looking at an SME, the cost involved in running your own infrastructure is very high, and it might even eat up most of your profit. Well, that notwithstanding, getting the right capacity, IT capacity in terms of personnel, is not something that we speak against. You can get the right personnel, but you don't need to get a large number of personnel which are not relevant. But what you should look at is IT service providers. So in the case of a data center service provider, there are various options: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. There are different types of, and even ISP and all those. So if you can really give out such responsibility to such service providers, you realize that it relieves you of certain tasks. And all mentioned using the script, is it a script? Yeah, I think the script methodology, you can, the framework, you can be able to ascertain if that service provider really meets the kind of quality or resilience that you require for your service that you are providing. So we should look at rather using shared infrastructure instead of having in-house infrastructure by ourselves as a way of having much better service being provided to you, because believe you me, experience, you realize that it's not easy to have that kind of expertise in-house, especially
Yeah.
for an SME. Yes, so if you can ride on such service providers, it will be the best option for you. Yes, rather than trying to get all such infrastructure in-house. If you feel running an IT, even if it's an IT room, it can be migrated to a certified data center. We would advocate that you migrate it to a certified data center and get your head off ensuring that the IT room is always running up and running. You know the situation with our power in Ghana.
Yes.
So you would consider all such necessities. I mean, if you look at data centers, they are there for us, SMEs and other institutions as such. They are there for us. They've created that capacity waiting for us to hop onto it. Yes, and currently most of the data centers, they are not running up to 50% of their full capacity. Yes, so they are paying for the infrastructure that keeps the data center running. So they are waiting for us to jump onto it because they've created all the necessary security nodes. They've created all the necessary resilience, redundancy, and even connectivity aspects. They've created all such provisions. So once you jump on there, you are also going to benefit from such quality service being provided for you. So we
Yeah.
advocate
So
for that.
in line,
Just to
okay.
add up a little on that. I mean, I think there is always this misconception that resilience um, uh, in IT systems require a lot of investment. But really, SMEs can achieve very high resilience by making smart IT choices and decisions. And I think he's touched on quite a bit. But one key thing is, of course, I mean, leveraging cloud-based services. So for your emails, for your collaboration or collaborative tools, accounting, all those you can easily rely on cloud services. But relying on cloud service as an SME then requires you to also pay attention to backup. All right. So whatever cloud service you are on, is it the case you can back up on a different cloud service, so if you have any challenges or whatever, you're able to easily retrieve and continue running your business, and then I would like to add, of course, uh, cyber security hygiene, so taking your, especially cybersecurity features like two-factor authentication, taking it very seriously. I mean, an SME, I mean, typically, I mean, it's run by the owner or a couple of owners, so if you, whatever cloud service you're applying for, or you are signing on, it will be very important and good for you to have two-factor authentication, especially clearly anchored on the owners or the leaders, so you can manage and control whatever goes on within the organization. So I guess this and many others will help SMEs to attain that kind of resilience in IT infrastructure and services. Mhm.
Okay, so Isaac, I'll be coming back to you, but I'd like to read something in the comment section that's in line with what Mr. Ampofo talked about during his submission, in line with power stability. So Robert Nia Tukwekwe says Ghana is becoming ready for cloud infrastructure thanks to growing internet access and digital adoption. However, challenges like power reliability and data affordability still need to be addressed. So thank you for that submission, Robert Ni Atukwe. I'm sure the right stakeholders would take this up and tackle it accordingly. Back to Isaac. How often should backup and recovery processes be tested? We know we keep saying from time to time, but can we put some figures to it? How often? Daily,
Okay, so
monthly, weekly?
well, I mean, of course, backup should be daily. It should be daily, especially when you I mean especially when you're considering your critical data, so daily backup is very important. It is also good to have a weekly verification tests and checks to ensure that your backups are indeed working as expected. So if you ask me, I would say a daily backup is very critical.
Okay, so there's another question for you.
Okay.
What fraud risks should digital service teams include in their risk register?
What?
Fraud risk should
Uh-huh.
digital service teams include in their risk register?
Okay. Um, well, I mean, I think Nana will be in a very good position to take this one up. Yeah.
Okay, unfortunately, I think he dropped off due to network
Oh,
challenges.
okay.
When he comes back on, maybe he could help us with that.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there's also, okay, Ngamiche, please go
So
ahead.
yes, I think with the question with Isaac answered concerning the backup, right? So a little comment I can also add into it is, I mean, the frequency of the backup is very important, but once you don't test them, then
Yeah.
how sure are you that that backup you took was, very good for you or your system? So mostly one recommendation I can mostly provide is you can set up like a quarterly test period of the backup. So if you take a daily backup, you can plan within your scope. If every 3 months, every 4 months, or every 6 months, you would at least for once test the backup you have taken and ensure how resilient the systems are. And like he mentioned, it also depends on the kind of workload. So if they are very critical systems, then you increase the form of frequency you test those backups. So if you take the backups daily, then you can run your test of that backup maybe with once a month or 3 times a month, depending on the criticality of the workload. So that's one additional comment I wanted to add to that.
Okay, thank you. Nana is back. So, Nana, while you were away, a question came for you. An audience wants to know how or what fraud risks should digital service teams include in their risk register? I think you're muted.
Yeah, all right. So sorry, I was having network challenge. So kindly repeat. I mixed that.
So, he wants to know what fraud risks should digital service teams include in their risk register?
All right. So I think that as I said, the first thing we need to look at, and when I say it broadly. It sounds a bit funny, but then it's social engineering. And when I talk about social engineering, it sounds a bit strange because I mean it's I call it cause and effect. Everything that should be happening. So I want to focus more on um, um, vulnerabilities that come as a result of um, um, exchange of information where we are not sure that what information we are seeking is critical. I mean, everything that happens within the digital space is more of information. And because in recent times, and as you guys have seen it, um, the risk has changed where there's what we call fraud as a service, where fraudsters are now commoditizing. So you can go onto the dark web and buy information and all of that. It's
Yeah.
important that one of the key things you need to do is to understand your fraud risk from the perspective of social engineering, information going out there, talking about phishing, talking about smishing, talking about farming, and what have you. One other thing we're also talking about is ransomware, distribution of DDoS attacks. So these are some of the things that you would need to be as part of your key register that you need to look at. Because farming, for example, as you know them, is one of the ways in which they trick people to think that they are genuinely entering into a site that is legitimate only for them to be tricked into a fraudulent site. So it's important that they have that as one of the things that they are looking at. Number two, you also want to one of the things we are also seeing is what we call business email compromise, and they do so either by using social engineering tactics then again to get your information, or they try to infiltrate your system and
Yeah.
get that information and then impersonate people within your organization as you. So it'll be important for you to understand this broadly and make sure that you do not get, and because of the deep fake that we see and then the AI
Yeah.
powered social engineering that we see, it's also important that you see some of these things, where the whole thing is, because they know that attacking the entire system because of the firewalls and all that may be difficult. So they want someone within the system. And so those are some of the things you need to look at. And
Sure.
also employee. It's important to look at employees as well because sometimes they may be the link. Thank you.
Thank you too. So before we wrap up, Kevin, there's a question for you. So Robert Ni Atikwe is asking, For a beginner out there who is watching and wondering how to start, how would you advise they grow into a cloud engineer? What path or steps would you recommend they follow? That's to you, Kelvin.
Okay. So, I mean, mostly with growing into the path of a cloud engineer, it mostly boils on the basic foundation, right? Because cloud on the end is based on whichever provider that is offering the solution. So understanding the basic engineering behind cloud is the biggest foundation you get to, be the stepping stone for your career. That is the basics, understanding networking, understanding virtualization, the security fundamentals, what each basic public cloud provider is offering. Now, once you understand the differences between these engineering basics for how a cloud infrastructure is. That then gives you like a stepping stone to decide which public cloud or which cloud provider that you would want to specialize in, because every cloud provider and how their infrastructure is, be it AWS, be it Azure, there's Google Cloud, and even local providers like us here at Smart Infraco. Whatever cloud solution that we have is very synonymous to whichever public cloud provider is. But once you have the foundation of what a cloud engineering is, understanding the virtualization scope, it basically gives you like a good foundation. And getting hands-on experience is also very important. Once you know how the networking works, once you understand how basic security frameworks are, how to design solutions that offer, people whatever problems, their web application, their web design, storage, all these basic technical knowledge or know-how of how a cloud infrastructure is or runs gives you like a basic stepping stone, because all across the world all these cloud providers have a very basic foundation that they run. And on top of that foundation, they build endless solutions from this foundation. So
Okay.
start from the basics, understand the basic engineering in IT and in cloud, and you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Robert Niatikwe, I'm hoping you're answered. Start from the basics and then understand the basic of IT and cloud infrastructures. Thank you all so much. So, please, your final words before we end today's webinar. Starting from Isaac.
Thank you very much. I think the critical thing is, yes, one, Ghana is ready for local cloud hosting. Two, clearly businesses are moving to cloud solution. So we should all be ready and embrace. We need to build very strong and resilient infrastructure that meets all the standards, uptime, institute, ISO, and what have you. Two, we need to also deliberately build capacity of Ghanaians to have the capacity to design, build, maintain, and run these data centers. And three, we need to also create the platform and and create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive on cloud. Even as we look at localizing data management, and data hosting, we need to, at this point, encourage the adoption of cloud services and cloud solution. So when we have optimized our local capacity, we can have a market that is ready for that. I believe, and then also my last one, I encourage SMEs and small businesses to rely more on cloud services, but putting in all the necessary measures to ensure you're backing up and you're validating your backups periodically, just so as and when you need, you can easily fall back on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nyamiche, final words. Nyamiche, I think you're muted. We can't really hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, loud and
Okay.
clear.
So before we end the webinar, I mean, there's one basic thought I would want to put in the heads of everybody, because currently Ghana is, moving through a digital journey to expand across the country. And for us, the decisions we make today, as to where we host our data, how secure our systems are what will define the future, coming forward, if our digital journey is truly ours. So I would entreat everyone, ask yourself these questions. Do we have the connectivity? Do we have the talent? Are there regulatory frameworks that exist? And when you ask yourself these questions, the answers you would find in them is yes, we do have the connectivity in the country, we have the talent, and we have the frameworks which are being built. So why are you not looking to deploy your infrastructure locally? Speak to experts and understand how you can move your workloads into the country and run without any form of compliance or regulatory problem. I mean, I would entreat everyone to, think of how best they can secure and be compliant with their infrastructure and data, within the country.
Thank you, Nyamiche. Mr. Ampofu, final words.
Yeah, okay. It's just like Nyamiche said, Ghana is currently moving on a digital transformation journey, and it employs both the private side, the public side to be on board. Yeah, so with that digital transformation journey, it requires that we have a lot of data centers, a lot of cloud infrastructure or cloud service providers in the country, because we are looking at not just doing the digital transformation and not able to have local data in-house. At the point we heard that now Nigeria has a huge IXP in the country. So now in Africa, we have two IXP points. So we have the South Africa and Nigeria points. So we are looking to ensuring that Ghana can even get there to that extent where there will be an exchange point, internet exchange point here in Ghana, which will ensure that the latency cost of data, like my brother suggested in the comment section, it will be able to come down drastically when we have such exchange points in the country. And those things can only ride on data centers or such infrastructures in the country. So we are looking to ensure that such things are employed in the country. So we are calling on to the private sector to ensure that they should explore such angles. They should explore such angles in the country, and it will help the transformation agenda. There's one other thing too that I wanted to look at, which was the digital trust aspect. Yes, and in providing or in ensuring that our citizens are highly onboarded, or they can have trust in our digital services that we provide, then there needs to be that quality of service. We need to show that security in the infrastructure that we provide. And by so doing, we'll be able to win their trust and they'll be able to onboard. And NITA is also playing that role as a regulator, and not just a regulator, but a regulator to create that enabling environment. We always talk about creating that enabling environment. We like to say we are creating an enabling environment more than we say that we are regulating the space. Yes, because that is the intent we have. We want to create an enabling environment where all players will be able to thrive within that digitalization agenda. Yeah, so creating that enabling environment by providing certain governing principles, standards, and baseline requirements for those who provide the service and for those who consume the services as well. So that
Okay.
is what I would like to put across. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Nana, final words. Nana, you're muted. So if you could unmute.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I was saying that it's interesting that I get to take the final call, and I am not I'm not a prophet of doom. It's just that sometimes we need to be aware when it comes to fraud and risk. Being aware is 50% solved. And so as we are developing the infrastructure and all of that, it makes it it's also becoming an enabler for fraud in all aspects. And so both providers and users must understand the risk, and then once they understand, they can deal with it. So what we say is that fraud is multi-vector. It cuts across, and so we need to understand them and then be able to deal with them. The second one is that security tools alone are not sufficient. We need to have risk management that starts with people and principles. It's very important that we do that. Now, early detection is very good. And so subtle behavioral anomalies precede major breaches. We need to understand some anomalies are things that we need to pick up. So we don't wait for the big bang before we take action. It's also important to understand that, and normally I tell people, controls are not at variance with um, customer experience. And so security and convenience actually are not opposites. We can have adaptive, risk proportionate, designs that can achieve both for us. And it's important that we do that. And then last but not the least, we believe that no single actor can secure Ghana's digital ecosystem. It's important that we have public-private co-governance, which is very essential. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you, audience. So this webinar was brought to you kind courtesy Smart Infraco. We are a private company powering Ghana's digital future with secure, reliable, and locally hosted infrastructure solutions. From data center services to cloud and connectivity solutions, we are there for you. So if you need to host locally, like we are championing, Smart Infraco is here for you. Now, thank you so much once again to our speakers and everyone who joined us today for this insightful discussion on securing Ghana's digital services through local infrastructure. Now, as Ghana's digital ecosystem continues to grow, collaboration, resilience, and investments in secure local solutions will be key to building a very safe digital future for all of us. So, we appreciate your time. We hope you took some notes, and thank you for your participation as well. We look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. It's bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.